Hey Void, day 3 of our streaming service roulette, and so far, not doing too bad on it. Now, today's one was from Shudder, which I was at first a little unsure on how to go about randomizing. Netflix kind of puts things in a relatively obscure order, so I've just been kind of going right off the cuff there. Tubi seems to reload an entirely random order every time I pull it up, so that takes care of itself. But Shudder, just re-signed up for it and was looking around. I couldn't find an exact randomization option. So I could either alphabetize it, which is hardly random, or just have it in there by most recent, which I thought about doing and just kind of scrolling through, but along the first line it would just have me watching several blaxploitation films in a row, a couple of which were just sequels, and I thought that could get a little stale. So I started rolling dice. It turns out Shutter's got exactly 100 rows and five columns, so rolled a couple dice, randomized it, and came up with today's, which is Blood Quantum, a Shudder original from 2019, 2020. It was right on the cusp there. Now, if you've been paying any attention to the way I run my show, for my thumbnails, I generally try to incorporate some random aspect of the movie. Like, for my phone review, I was holding my phone. Yes, I'm very clever. Other things like that. For the innkeepers, I threw a sheet over myself for a ghost. Again, I'm clever. But this one, I just went with a nice safe thumbs up because this one is a zombie flick, but it's primarily based around Native Americans, particularly the Red Crow tribe, and a good chunk of the film is in the Micmac language. Now, I didn't want to do anything that would be construed as cartoonishly offensive, so I just went with a nice safe thumbs up because, yeah, I'll just say right off, I did enjoy this one. Which is saying something because we are still in a world where we are still oversaturated with zombie flicks, so one that brought a little something was welcome. Now, I will say at first, when this movie started, I was a little concerned. This one starts off with an older man who's clearly been fishing. He's gutting his fish, and his fish suddenly start coming back to life to his confusion and growing horror, which looked a little silly. And it brought to my mind the Australian zombie film from, oh, was it 2003, 2006, somewhere in there, Undead, which was a zombie comedy, which I'll say I did love Undead, but it wasn't the tone I was hoping for this movie. But it was not really played for laughs, it just looked a little silly, and the movie does take itself very seriously. In fact, this is a very dark, serious movie, and it gets a little bleak. So, the main thing that sets off this zombie flick from some of the others is, well, one, the Native American focus. Essentially, it's set on the Red Crow Reservation, and as they are finding out, the indigenous people are immune to the zombie plague. They don't get back up when they die, and if they get bitten, well, they just have to treat the wound. They don't get infected. So it creates an odd bit of well, hardly odd, a bit of racial tension as any white person that they let into as they're trying to help survivors is a potential ticking time bomb. And several members of the tribe are opposed to letting people in, and it adds a bit of some good tension to it, particularly with some of the younger people who are fed up with, understandably, with how their tribe has been treated. So they view it as this is what these people deserve. And kind of caught in this, the one of the main characters is the sheriff that helps keep everything together, and his son, who is dating a white lady who has recently gotten pregnant. So they're a teenage couple that's caught in the middle of all this, while the dead are rising. And yeah, So pretty quickly, it jumps 6 months ahead, so where they've established their compound, and as they're trying to deal with the prospect of helping survivors, as well as hunting as many of the undead who lower their numbers. But when a infected woman is accidentally let in and bites and severely wounds one of the younger, more abrasive members, he decides to get revenge on believing it was an intentional attack from the white folk. He essentially begins luring her into the compound where they have a lot of them set aside for treatment, and pretty much creates a zombie genocide, and all hell breaks loose. So yeah, it's a very dark film, and I will say the gore effects are very well done, and I will say it definitely goes places I was not expecting. I believe this is a Canadian origin film, so when I saw it was rated 16 plus, I thought, okay, it's not going to be too much here, which is kind of a shame for a zombie film. No, they don't really pull their punches. One of the earlier zombie scenes involves a woman eating her newborn baby, so it's definitely a bit on the extreme end at some points. And they don't pull the camera away from some bits of the brutality. It's a very gory film, and mixed with the social commentaries it's making, it can be a bit heavy-handed at times, but for the most part, I think it does work. Though the movie isn't by any means great, it still suffers from a lot of the usual zombie movie tropes. You can see why a lot of characters are making the choices they are, and some of them know they're making bad choices, but what else are you going to do? Also, I will say that the film is a little random at some points where it's kind of jumping scene or jumping chapter where it'll suddenly fade to an animated scene of just the characters finishing what they were doing, but it looks really cool, so I like to give it points there. But it is still a zombie movie, and the zombies themselves aren't really adding anything new other than adding fish and dogs getting back up, but seeming to indicate certain other animals are safe. But it looks like pretty much every other zombie movie, other than the ethnic issues that are brought into it, which does have a breath of fresh air, which keeps this movie from falling down. And it was much better than my other recent one, Survival of the Dead. So I'm going to give this one 3 MacGuffins, but on the higher end. It's definitely a cut above a lot of the other ones. So wasn't quite enough to get up into a 4. I can't see myself rewatching this movie very often, but Blood Quantum was definitely worth seeing at least once. Now for the title, I did have to do a little research. Apparently, for many native and indigenous tribes, Blood Quantum is I don't know exactly how it works, but that's kind of the measure that they use to determine if someone is of the tribe or how much percentage your blood is. So that's where that comes from. I did not know that. A little bit of education. Alright, so that's today, and we'll see what Netflix treats me to tomorrow. Well, have a good night.